Hey folks, we're back for another episode of Don't Ruin This For Me, a podcast dedicated to looking back at all the sexism and misogyny of the 1980s and then realizing, oh shit, not much has changed.
It's tough. Hey, if you've ever had dreams only to watch them shatter, if you've ever realized you're just a step on the boss man's ladder, then this episode's for you.
That's right. Today we're talking about the endless struggles of the working woman with the classic film 9 to 5.
9 to 5. It's the original Office Space, but with icons Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Jane Fonda. Released in 1980, our hometown boy Roger Ebert called it a simple-minded comedy, but then waxed poetic about Dolly's movie debut for like 6 paragraphs.
What? Because he loved her tits.
He thought
he loved her
she
tits.
Was so good. He was like, he compared her to Marilyn Monroe. Yes. He was like, she is a life force. And you know what? He's not wrong, because Dolly is the best. And her hair levitates around her head like cotton candy. And every scene, she sparkles.
She is sparkles.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just the greatest. And obviously, our girl Dolly wrote the lyrics to the hit song 9 to 5, which slaps till this day.
To this day.
I listened to it on the way over here. It's a rich man's game, no matter what they call it. And you spend your life putting money in his wallet.
I mean, Beyonce needs to thank Dolly for paving the way on these capitalism fuck the man songs.
Yeah, fuck those men.
Anyway, it's been 43 years since Dolly spoke truth to power, and I cannot wait to talk about how the plight of the working woman has changed. Or not.
This is going to be a great episode, you guys, because, you know, sometimes we book these shows, like we book the movies, or these are the movies we're going to do, and then we like put our people together with it. And I just think it's coincidence that it's so great that we do 9 to 5 today, and our guest, Miss Dina Nina Martinez-Rutherford, friend of the pod, is just recently elected to being the first trans alderperson of Dane County, Wisconsin, a.k.a. Madison.
Okay.
What's up? All right. We're so proud of her. And she's a producer and creator of Lady Laughs Comedy. And so we are so thrilled to have you today, Dina.
Yes, we're thrilled.
I'm so excited to be here.
But before we start whining about working and being chained to the corporate man, what have you guys been into this week pop culture wise? You got anything you're excited about?
You know, this week I've pop culture wise, it's been hard because I've been very obsessed. From last week, still obsessed with Law and Order SVU. I found that there's a new podcast. I know this is super old, but I keep thinking about writing about it because my love for the show is so deep.
I know it is.
And every time I turn it on, I'm like, I can't believe they were talking about this in 2004. Oh my God, I forgot that they were talking about this in 2007.
Right.
So again, it's kind of our brand to like look back.
Yeah.
And see the
Nothing
things
wrong
that have
with
changed. So I've been doing that. I've been very, very, very obsessed with SZA. I just been like into her music and just feeling like, oh, taking this edible, listen to a little SZA. I'm going to be chill today. And then my Peloton. I'm super crazy about it because I'm training for that century. And the music that's popping up on there has been great. Matt Wilbur, shout out. I hope you know how much we love you.
That's always where I would get like my best music. And I remember one time, like when Dua Lipa's album came out, and it was like the album, right? It was like Cody Rigsby constantly playing it on Peloton. And I remember one time they said something to Jeremy about Dua Lipa, and he was like, who? And I was like, this album has been out for a year. It's everywhere. Like, what are you talking about? I was offended. But two things I've been into this week, you guys. I'm reading the new, I am a white woman wearing a striped sweater. So I have to say that I am reading, the new Oprah pick.
But you're loving it.
It's called Hello Beautiful. It is fucking fantastic. I've read 100 pages of it. It's like one of those like family sagas where you're seeing people over the course of years and years, and it's going on, and I love it. I'm also watching season 11 of Married at First Sight. And Dina, please weigh in on this. Elizabeth and I have been going back and forth about whether or not I should apply for Married at First Sight Chicago. Should I be married to someone we've never met?
I mean, I absolutely think yes. Everybody deserves a starter marriage or multiple starter marriages, and that sounds perfect.
Dina,
a credit and a starter marriage.
Yes, girl. Thank you. I've been begging Adrian.
Do you guys think that the podcast would really take off after I was on Married at First Sight?
We would do our whole season on shows like that.
Like, no doubt. Like, it would just be so fire.
All right. Well, maybe I'll
think of it as publicity and marketing and do what you gotta do.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't like men that much, as we just know. But, like, surely they could find me one I'd like.
I think so.
I think the odds are very low.
One you can stand for, like, 2 weeks.
Well,
and
I have to
get
go.
Divorced. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I'd have to go on a honeymoon. So the structure of the show is like I walk out in my wedding dress. I'm already in trouble because I'm not going to wear a white gown. They're probably going to be unhappy with me, right? But maybe green, something. I'm 43. Like this can't get tragic. So I'm gonna come out in my dress. I'm going to marry this stranger.
She clearly hasn't been thinking about this at all.
We're going to have a reception, right? You guys will be there because,
of course.
And you're going to be on TV because they're going to interview you about like, what do we think about this stranger, right? And then they're going to send me to like Mexico with. Do you guys feel comfortable sending me to Mexico with a strange man?
Yes, and a TV crew for sure. If Dina and Nina and I, if both of us get to go to Mexico for free,
okay,
yeah, we're in.
Well, and then I come back, and
we're on your honeymoon now.
Yes,
we're just going on your honeymoon.
Yes, and then you guys, I come back, and then you'll have to have like brunch with my new husband.
Yes,
like because listen, my parents are not participating. My family are going to have to be, or my friends are going to have to step in as my family. So you guys will have to have brunch with my new husband. You'll have to come over. They have like game night where you have to play like Never Have I Ever with my new husband.
I am so good at games.
I know you are.
So good at games.
Yeah. So maybe I'll apply this week and I will release my application as part of my newsletter. What do you guys think?
I've been asking you to do this for a while.
Okay.
I'm the one who brought it to your attention. I was
true.
You got to do this. And then
It's true.
I was really shocked that you and Taylor weren't like, yes, I'm going to do this immediately.
Well, first of all, I think I'm about 10 years older than their target. They usually have people in like their 30s who are desperate. I already have a child. I've already been divorced. I think that's a great storyline. I asked Max if he would be my bridesmaid. He was like, no. But I think we could convince him.
I love that you texted me. You're like, what if Max is my best man? And I was like, bitch, no.
Yeah, she was. She was like, no.
Sorry, that kid's getting kicked out from my spot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been through enough.
It's like, Max, here's your new daddy. You can't stand up here with us.
I'm sorry, kid. You got to sit down. Auntie's got to wear a gorgeous dress and hang out on this beach.
Well, beware. All of their clothing on all of these shows, I've noticed this on Love is Blind too, like bring in a tailor. What the fuck is happening?
I'm
like
into
nobody's dresses ever fit. Right? Are you watching Love is Blind?
Married at First Sight.
No, I'm not. But every one of those shows, I'm just like, really?
Where's the tailor?
What is happening here?
Yes, everyone looks like shit.
Where is the tailor?
Yes.
And a steamer couldn't hurt.
Yes. Dina, are you into any pop culture this week, or are you too busy aldering in Madison?
I'm really into. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's Sleep on this platform called My Bed. That's where I'm really. That's one. But I am constantly obsessed with like alien documentaries.
Ooh,
quotes. On, like,
the people in Madison right now are like, oh.
We made a great decision voting her in.
Hey, Dina.
I'm just really I've been watching a lot of YouTube things that just let my mind melt into nothingness, and Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, I love Powerpuff Girls. I love them.
What?
I love that evil gorilla.
Dina, before we get into our recap, I would love if you would tell people like what's your aldermanic platform? Alder platform.
Alder platform, yes.
Yeah, like what are you hoping to change, or what are you hoping to do? Yeah. Alderperson.
I'm just gonna spend time putting alder.
Yeah.
Because I'm alder than most people.
What are your goals as an alder?
My goal is to really find ways to make everyone in Madison trans. So
we knew knew it.
Keep Madison weird.
Wait, I wasn't supposed to say that on. that was the quiet part.
You're shoving this down our necks.
No, I know. Forbid. Men have been doing it for years. Now let a trans lady.
There you go.
Wait, that sounded weird. Okay. So, I mean, we're facing so many challenges, not only as a city but as a nation. You know, like affordable housing rents are atrocious, and for those of us who experience poverty and housing insecurity, like it's vital that we find solutions for that as soon as possible, because, you know, I know anybody that's been to LA recently, but the homeless population is out of control, and everyone deserves safe and stable housing, right?
Right.
Yes.
Like everyone should have that.
Yes.
So that, and then a lot of like social initiatives, and of course the job that I'm going to do is working with developers to build stuff so that we can have places for people to live and increase the income into the city. So
Oh my God, I could
it
talk
sounds
to you about
really
this for days.
boring.
No. It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
issue with homelessness is so complicated. And I don't mean to break down all your dreams now before you even fully officially get into office, but like Chicago also has a big homeless issue. And I'd love, like, at some point we can talk about this offline, because this is like a big thing, and it matters, you know. More importantly, are you going to take my guns away?
Yeah. Yes.
I hope so.
I mean, no. I mean, maybe.
Are you saying that your platform is basically house trans people with guns?
Yes. That is
Well, listen, if you ever need us to come to Madison to help, to do anything, we love Madison. We're ready. Preferably in the summer.
You're welcome always.
Yes. Well, should we get to it?
Yeah.
Come on.
We're talking a little bit about work.
Yeah.
Let's
get
talk
to it.
about this movie, which I love, which opens with, I just have to say, Jane Fonda rolls into a company, right? Well, first there's a montage of working, you know, which
Yes,
is like
all women.
Obviously women, they're in their like, you know, tennis shoes and their skirts. They're running for the bus.
They're
and
in
shit.
New York City.
Yes.
They're all like wearing like nice dress. They're wearing.
Yes.
They're doing the great 80s things where you wear stockings with open toe shoes.
Yes, or stockings with tennis shoes.
Yes.
Which is the best vibe.
And your stockings are always like 2 shades too dark for you.
Yes.
And they're getting hot dogs.
Yes.
And they're getting kids ready for school.
Yes.
And they're like just hustling through the city and then they're just boss bitches. And then we see Jane Fonda doing the classic New York City look where you like look up at a building with a hat on.
Yes. But her outfit is absurd.
Yes,
it
I
is
love
so
it.
out of control. She's dressed up like an Easter egg. Her outfit is like a brocade, but it's like blue and pink, and she has like a pink straw hat. I mean, she's totally out of place. She rolls in and she meets Lily Tomlin, boss bitch.
Yes, who just got the assignment that she's going to have to take Jane Fonda on.
Yes.
And she's like super upset because she's just like, why do I have to take on this new girl?
Right, because she's the supervisor.
Yes. And so she runs through the whole dynamic. Like we have Roz, the one who's like the kiss ass to the boss.
Yes.
And she also reminds me, I guess that might be from the Pixar Monsters. Remember Roz?
Oh, yeah.
The secretary who walks
Yeah,
around the monster scene?
Wazowski.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the cigarettes. Yes.
Yeah. So she might, don't you think she must be the inspiration
I
for that?
bear
character?
no resemblance.
So she's, you know,
I don't look exactly like Roz from Monsters Inc. Like,
so she then, you know, Lily Tomlin says to Jane, she's just like, hey, like, watch out for Roz. She's like, and this is
She's
important.
a gossip. She's the office gossip.
Every time you're in the bathroom, make sure to look for her feet.
Yes.
This matters.
Yes.
Yes. And then, you know, there's all these rules about like how you keep your office. It has to stay very clean. It's like living in
It's not an
IKEA.
office, how you keep your cubicle. You can't have a family photo. You have to have efficiency. And, you know, this is just not a place anyone wants to work. So then Lily Tomlin takes Jane Fonda to meet the boss man, Mr.
Yes.
Hart, in his office. And this is one of my favorite parts because he talks about how his business philosophy is teamwork. But then he goes into a speech about how he feels bad for women because they weren't able to play football or baseball, so they don't understand teamwork.
Right. And the best part is then he asked Lily Tomlin to get him a coffee.
Yes.
And she's like, this is not what my job description is.
Yes.
And he says, did you just not hear me about this teamwork business?
Yes.
Which is so humiliating.
Yes. Get a coffee and get a gift for his wife.
Yes. And then at this point, we get introduced to
Dolly?
our girl Dolly.
Dolly. She comes in. She is wearing the weirdest bra I have ever seen.
It's totally like a 50s style, like point bra.
It's pointy. It offers no support. So there's a lot of like, tight sweater, titty jiggling pointingness. Yes. Yeah.
I loved
wild.
I was like, oh my God, those titties. And
listen, she looks great, but like the bra is odd.
Yes, and this is definitely when she has smaller boobs than she currently has, right? Like her boobs are not, they've gotten bigger over the years.
Yeah, because those I think might be her natural boobs. I don't want to,
yes, that's what I think too.
Yeah, I don't want to like, objectify her like that. But
her waist is snatched,
yes.
her hips are out,
yes.
she's wearing this great outfit,
yes.
she looks adorable.
Yes.
And to your point, her head is like a big cotton ball.
It is permed and teased, and it is like amazing. It's just levitating around her head.
The higher the hair, the closer to God.
Listen, I believe it. She looks fucking great. And as Roger Ebert said, she's very sparkly. Every scene that she's in, people are like, she's adorable.
Yes, I love her.
But you guys, all the ladies at the office fucking hate Dolly because they think she is fucking Mr. Hart and she's too pretty and slutty.
Yes, I have to interject something here though.
Please
it's
do.
like I think that was one of the big things in the 80s was like a big deal about like divorces because divorces were fairly like starting to become common.
Yeah.
And it was also like it was early feminism, right? Like it's let's work hard but fuck a bitch for being a slut.
Yes,
and
for sure.
It's very contradictory.
Yeah.
So everyone doesn't like Dolly, and Jane has now adopted the attitude because, of course, she wants to fit in.
Right. So Dolly asks her to lunch, and she's like, I can't, you whore. Because she's got her pink hat on, she can't go there.
Yeah, because the whole rumor is that she's having an affair with Mr. Hart,
right?
Who, by the way, does make a big pass on Dolly, and Dolly is not having it.
No, he knocks over all the pencils on his desk on purpose so he can look down her dress, and then he pretends like he's going to help her get the pencils, and then he sort of grabs at her. I mean, it's all very 1980s. Now Matt Lauer like has a button, so he just locks the door. It's more discreet. But in the 80s, you would just be like, ah.
And they do dedicate a lot of time in like this desk scene where he's setting up all the things to get like pushed over to the top.
Yeah, and right in that moment, his wife shows up.
Oh no!
And the thing I noticed, you guys, I have been spending some time on the Real lately. I don't know if you guys spend any time on the Real. Dina's nodding. I've been looking at their Louis Vuitton vintage collections, and so I definitely noticed that Mr. Hart's wife rolls in a fur. She's got a Louis Vuitton over her shoulder.
I almost texted you to be like, "Girl." Did you see? He has a Louis Vuitton.
I gotta say, it looked great. And 43 years later, that's what they look like on the Real. I mean, and in stores. Yeah. But anyway,
in pictures.
Yeah, she shows up and she is, she's rich and she wants to go on a cruise.
Yes,
so she's gonna leave.
So then we start to get to the meat of the story, actually, because Mr. Hart, Lily Tomlin's up for a promotion, and she realizes she's not going to get this promotion because Mr. Hart was like, well, I got to give it to this dude, as he would, regardless of like all these great ideas that Lily has.
Why does he give it to the dude?
Because they went to school together, right?
No, because he has a family he needs to support,
right.
Which I think was like one of the biggest things that corporations used to say and do, and still maybe.
It was really ugly.
And because men prefer to talk to other men about figures.
Yes.
Figures meaning money, and not Dolly's outfit.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I also love that the reason that this great idea that she had come up with, Lily Tomlin, who, by the way, if you don't know what these people do for a living, neither do we.
No, we have no idea.
We just know that it's a room full of secretaries.
Yeah.
We're not sure like why they're secretaries.
There's a warehouse at some point.
Right,
There's some spreadsheets.
The story lacks a little detail, but I
don't care.
Right. But then Mr. Hart is like, Lily Tomlin, you've come up with this great like color coding system, and he's like, and then I'm going to steal that idea and then I'm not going to promote you. And it's just awful. And
It
so
is.
she's like, I'm getting the heck out of here and going downstairs to Charlie's. And as she's going downstairs to Charlie's, Jane Fonda finds out that one of her friends that she has now made at this new company has been fired because she can't work the hours that she needs to work. And so Jane Fonda's had enough and she's left.
She wants to rise up. And Dolly is mad because Lily Tomlin has told her that Mr. Hart said he was fucking her.
Yes. Classic.
So the girls are together at the bar and they're weighing their options. They're like, we could quit, but go where? It's the same everywhere. They're like, we could complain, but to who? And then they're like, you know what we'll do? We'll get high and we'll fantasize how we would get rid of Mr. Hart. So what are their ideas?
Oh my God. So they all get stoned and they're all laughing at Dolly's house and having wine and like digging around. This is the most tedious part to me about the movie.
Yeah.
And when I was watching it, I had forgotten that I actually enjoyed it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I was like, oh my God, why are they even doing this?
Well, it's very slapstick.
It's very stupid. So Jane Fonda's idea is to hunt him down like an animal and then shoot him and then put his head on the wall.
Right.
Lily Tomlin is basically she's like Snow White and poisons his coffee and then throws him out the window with like one of these like what do we call it?
A launcher.
Like
he kind of launches him. Yeah.
And then Dolly wants to do one where she treats him basically like he treats her.
Yes.
You know, like sexualizing him and then like eventually I forget how she kills him.
She's going to hog tie him, girl.
Oh yeah, right.
She hog ties him. And then these things happen in real life.
On a spit.
Yes. Thank you. See,
she's going to roast him on a spit. So then somehow Lily Tomlin accidentally poisons him with rat poison in his coffee.
Well, because she's a working woman, Adrian,
she's
and
busy.
she during her lunch break she couldn't lunch with the ladies. She had to go run her grocery errands, and the rat poison looks just like
the sweetener,
which is called what, Skinny and Sweet or Sweet Skinny,
some shit like that. But
so embarrassing.
Anyway, all of a sudden, all these things that they had fantasized started coming true.
Yes.
So he drinks the rat poison. Next thing you know, he's
about to drink it. But then he falls on his chair and knocks his head off.
He does drink it, but that's why he falls, right?
No, I don't think so. I think that's what leads it to like the whole slapstick part.
Oh well, at any rate, this stuff it's not that important.
No, he didn't drink it. It fell.
Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it's not even that important. He goes to the hospital because he fell over, and then there's like a whole mistaken identity of the body. They think he's dead, and then Lily Tomlin absconds with a body,
thinking that it's him, and it's not him.
She puts it in her trunk. The girls realize that it's not him. Now they've got this body. It's just like
it gets so stupid.
It's a little
really
silly.
Stupid.
Eventually, they kidnap Mr. Hart.
Right. And they put the original body back.
Right, yeah. They take the body back and they put it in the bathroom, which is actually funny because then the cleaning people find it.
Yes, and they're like, we've got another stiff in the John. Yeah. This is fucking great.
Very 80s.
Yes.
So they kidnap him because his wife is on this cruise because she's rich.
Well, at the time, then the gals gather in the bathroom. This is where Roz comes in. So the gals gather in the bathroom and they start talking about how Mr. Hart has shown up to work.
Yes.
And they're like, oh my God, he showed up to work. So we didn't kill him.
Right.
We're all fine. I can't believe what we did last night with all this dead body stuff, blah, blah, blah. Roz is in the bathroom, like writing down on a piece of toilet paper.
With her knees up on her chest so nobody can see her feet.
So she's like writing it all down. She goes back to Mr. Hart and she's like, Mr. Hart, these women try to kill you. He then confronts Dolly with it because he's like, you're going to come over tonight. And she's like, well, Mr. Hart, I'm not working tonight.
But he's like, no, you are coming over and you're going to work. Otherwise, I'm going to call the police and say you guys poisoned me.
Yes.
So then she hog ties him with a phone cord.
And she says, I think this is the time when she says the best line in the whole movie, which is, I'm going to turn you from a rooster to a hen if you keep moving like that.
Yeah, she's going to shoot him with her gun because she's got a gun in her purse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then they kidnap her. They take him to his house because the wife's out on business or on her vacation.
Cruise. She doesn't work, bitch.
Right. Correct. And they create, like, there's this whole scene about, like, how they're creating, like, these ways to keep him, like, tied up. You know?
Yeah, so they have a prisoner. He's a full-grown man. This part I think is pretty funny. They like clearly are trying to like, make some like BDSM, like gay culture kind of jokes. Like they put a like dog collar on him. They like shackle him up to like a pulley system.
Yes,
like the ceiling of his bedroom.
And they foreshadow that because
a garage door system.
Yes.
A garage door system.
That Lily Tomlin installed because she's handy that way.
And then they go back to work, and while they're at work, and they're trying to cover that Mr. Hart is not at work. So they're doing things like Roz is always like, "Where's Mr. Hart?" And they're making up reasons
like,
why he's not around.
Oh, he's in there. Or like they're like, the elevator is closing. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Hart," It's fucking great. But this is actually the moment where I'm going to say, I know you guys are busy, but perhaps the three of us should rewrite 9 to 5 for the modern era as like a project, because we're all very funny. Because I actually love this part where he is like, he's chained up at home, and the women make all these women-focused improvements at the office, and productivity goes through the roof.
Right,
I love it.
So they insert daycare. They insert like part-time work or part-time sharing of hours.
People can put their photos on their desk.
Yes, they start coloring, like putting up like painted walls and painted lockers. And they're just thriving and having the best time.
Yes.
And this is all happening over the course of like 6 weeks because Lily Tomlin realizes that the one thing that they can get over the boss so that he doesn't send them to jail for attempted murder is the fact that he's been embezzling from the company.
Right. So they're waiting for the forms from the home office.
Which is like, what forms?
So they can like really make it.
Your secretaries, why do you even have a warehouse?
I love this line. You gals are out of your mind. You think you can keep me here for a week? I'm the boss. You don't think I'll be missed? Anyone who's ever had a job is like on the ground dying. So then, Jane's ex-husband shows up one day when she's babysitting Mr. Hart. There's a kerfluffle. There's some sex jokes.
Yeah, well, that's an important scene, though, because Jane...
Important?
I would say, one, I think that this is the time where you're supposed to feel like this is empowerment, right?
Because Jane's been divorced.
Yes.
So, yeah, okay.
And the ex-husband's like, I want to get you back. I want you back in my life. And she's like, go fuck yourself.
Right, because he left her for his secretary as well.
Correct. And he was making judgments about her because he catches Mr. Hart flying in the air on this police system.
Right, with his collars on, and he's like, oh shit, this is a sex thing.
Yes. Yeah. And he's like, you can't sleep with your boss. Anyways.
She's like, I'm not. We're just holding him hostage.
So while these women are working these shifts at work and then while they're working these shifts at work and they're working their shifts with Mr. Hart, at some point there's an empty spot and the wife comes home.
Right. This is so weird. Yes. This is so weird.
So the wife comes home and like basically it's the whole ploy is up, right? Like they're like, we're in trouble now because Mr. Hart is now set free. And the way that they figure this out is because Mrs. Hart calls Dolly and is like, oh, I just wanted to thank you for those flowers. And Dolly's like, what flowers? And she's like, well, the ones that I got in Mexico. And she's like, well, that was Mr. Hart's idea. And she's like, I talked to Mr. Hart. It's not his idea. And this is all happening. Dolly's like, oh, shit. We got to go. We got to start moving differently.
Right.
So they all show up back at the... Right, because they all end up at the office.
But none of it makes sense. I don't know. Let's not dive. Let's move forward. Let's fucking move forward. Anyway, he's escaped. That's the point. Yeah. He's escaped. He shows up at the office, but at the same time, the chairman of the board shows up at the office to tell him that he's so thrilled about this 20% rise in productivity.
In like 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes. So he's so impressed. He tells him he's going to move Mr. Hart to the office in Brazil.
Yes.
And the best part about this is 1980 is that Brazil is like treated as if this is like, I don't even know, like Mars, like something totally fucking insane. You could never go to Brazil because Mr. Hart is like, no, I can't go to the jungle. Right.
So he gets shipped off to Brazil. Violet gets promoted to VP.
That's Lily Tomlin.
Right. Sorry. And Judy, who's Jane Fonda, she gets married to the Xerox rep, of course.
Obviously.
Like, what?
Who wouldn't?
And then, of course, our girl Dolly.
She becomes a country singer.
Yeah.
Working 9 to 5.
What a way to make a living.
I mean, listen, this movie's insane. I think that the three of us should rewrite a version for like 2025.
I would love to, except Alder
Martinez-Rutherford.
Alder Dina Nina is going to be busy this year.
Yes.
Maybe you can just come in
a little
and
bit.
You can punch up our jokes though, because you're very funny.
Thank you. I'll do it as like a class. I'll be like, let's do punch up. Let's learn to punch up. And then we just punch up the script that we all worked on.
Exactly. Done and done. But anyway, so I watched this movie.
Let me get my writing team together. I mean.
Anyway, this leads me to the very important question, you guys. Is capitalism the root of all evil?
Dina didn't even let you finish that sentence.
Yes, tell us your thoughts, Dina.
Yes. Yes, it is. Western capitalism.
Yes.
This new capitalism, American capitalism, is so messed up. And, and everything they did was in the realm of reasonable, movements, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also fun. But I sit there and I'm like, how did Thoroughly Modern Millie walk into this first? Like, I'm like, what was that outfit? 1920s. Let's like, I felt like that's out of place because nobody else, even on the street, except for like one guy, were wearing hats. And I was like, what is up with this hat?
You guys, there were some questions about just the location because I was like, they open with this New York montage, but I was like, this must be happening like in Dallas because like the outfit that Jane's got on and then Dolly's like entire existence, like none of this is New York.
Well, and Lily Tomlin's like all the time making this like funny joke about like, we need to get a locker for your hat.
Right. She definitely improvised that.
Yes. Dina, do you think this is part of...
I think... Go ahead.
I was just say, do you think that this is... because capitalism, I agree with you, is the root of all evil. Do you think that that's what helped drive you to going into politics?
No.
Like, that's a hard one, right?
It was actually 9 to 5 that made me realize that I wanted to go into politics. Mostly I thought I wanted to wear that pointy bra the whole time. No, I mean, capitalism is a big part of why I ran. Like, I obviously I own a company, so I participate in capitalism. But when we lose the focus on humanity and it's solely on acquisition of money and power, then that's a problem,
Yeah. Do you think there's a way... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I think all that happened in that movie was kind of reasonable when you consider the behavior.
Do you think there's a way to be an ethical capitalist?
Yeah, absolutely. But it all comes down to, instead of focusing on the bottom dollar, focusing on people. Like, we've lost that so much, especially with the anonymity of the internet, and now I'm supposed to be funny, and now I'm just being like serious politician here. So
no, it's important.
But yeah, like, I mean, everything I do, I consider myself a mission-driven for-profit. We our focus is to empower women and queer people through the comedic arts, and anyone else who wants to come along the ride, as long as they're cool, And when you put your intention as other-bodied people on the binary can come in if they want, and we'll be nice, But as long as we put our intention into not craving acquisition of finances, of money, and we focus on making cool stuff for cool people and empowering people, then we can participate in a gentler capitalism. That'll be my first book, Gentler Capitalism.
Honestly, that's a bestseller because I think, as I was watching this, one thing that struck me, so it was released in 1980, the year I was born. And so I quickly knew that was 43 years ago. But I was like, has work life changed that much? Like, is it that different than what's happening here right now? I'm like, when they were like, who do we complain to? There's no one to complain to. Where are we going to go? It's the same everywhere. I'm like, that's the exact same stuff that people are saying about their jobs. It's literally the conversation that Elizabeth and I have all the time about like our future careers. Like, well, is there anything better? Like doing, or it's, like, are we at the best that it can get? Like, we're just sort of chained to these jobs because we have children that we have to feed and homes that we have to, so it's like if everybody's always trying to find just like the best situation in a total shit situation, I'm like, I don't know. It kind of bummed me out, honestly, that I was like, life doesn't seem that different 43 years later.
I would say this, and this, I'm an internal optimist, as we've talked about before on this podcast, but I definitely take a lot of gratitude from what my experience has been versus what it is now. One of the things I talk about a lot, and actually we haven't dived that deeply into it in this podcast, is when I had Violet, I had 2 weeks and I had to use my paid vacation to have her. And then I was like 2 weeks later, I was at work with my baby strapped to my chest because I had to be. And seeing people like now being able to take months off or let fathers get like paternity leave.
But again, only at a certain level.
Right, correct.
You have to have a real white collar job to have any of that.
And at the right companies, right? Because even some of the white collar companies aren't going to do that.
Right.
But there is like, I can see the needle move a little bit. But I think the problem with the idea of ethical capitalism is that one door kind of like you're trying to open this door for the daycare centers, right? For these, but then you have like this evil corporation behind those that make it like more difficult to do it in a different way. So it's like, it's even like in the world of composting or recycling, for clothing companies that like are trying to make things better. Then they create these other companies that end up losing their vision at what they originally started at. And I think that's what we constantly are seeing.
Well, and it raises all these questions about like who is in charge of the community, who should be creating community resources.
Dina Nina Martinez.
Well, right. Like, is the community creating daycare and like social structures?
Go ahead, Dina. I
will tell you that I had the most interesting conversation with one of the people that will be my constituent once I'm sworn in. But he mentioned that there was a model for a cooperative senior care facility and that we should do a cooperative daycare facility or, program.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so fascinating because that gets the community involved. That gets mothers who understand what it's like to be a working mother involved. And it changes the fabric of what's happening in our community. We've been separated from community because we silo neighborhoods and people go to work and then come home and then just want to sleep. They don't have a work-live space primarily throughout the whole country. But when people have a work-live environment where everything's walkable, you interact with community more. You get more involved in what's happening in your community. And that buy-in changes the way we live our lives, and it helps everyone. Now, government should be doing that. Business should be also doing that so that I talk about this a lot, but when we are so focused on just making the bare minimum to survive, like rents are expensive, food's expensive, forget about you're done, and that's not the way this country should be. And the funny thing about this movie is it's right at the beginning as we see the income disparities between upper management and the general worker. So we're starting to see that there, but what's happened now is just insane. Yeah. And I think there are more covert ways of being sexist than there were then.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think, gosh, having worked in politics for 15 years, I find one of the things that's really difficult to balance between some of the ideas that you're talking about and capitalism is the fact that like the things that we want to see happen, like all the people who don't have homes to have homes, or for people to get the social services that they need from social service people, is there's no money. There's no money in it, right? I mean, I'm definitely like eat the rich, burn it all fucking down, and like let's start all over in society. Because I do agree with you. Having a community makes you feel invested in it. Having having a heart toward humans and other people that are suffering is very important. But if you're looking in a capitalist ecosystem, then you're stuck with like not having the funds to take care of a social worker who would take care of those homeless people. I like my job. I do, even though I complain it a lot. But I've been 15 years. For 15 years, I've never gotten a raise. No one's been like, hey.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Right. And so it's, but I like, there are other benefits to it. One is that I do go to, even though people can make me crazy, I definitely am like, I'm helpful. I'm helping somebody have their life move to the next level or have something that they can't resolve that I try to resolve. I love it more when I have situations like one time I had a situation where this family came in and they had sent their kids to Puerto Rico for the summer, and then their apartment flooded and they were living out of a van and they were 2 weeks away from their kids coming home. And so I spent the whole next couple of weeks just trying to track down homes for them and get them set up with the with the VA services, that kind of stuff I really, really love. But I also know if I moved in my life into actually being a social worker, I'd make half of what I make now. And so it's difficult because these are the services we need, but we don't want to fund this for services.
Yeah. Well, and when you're looking at companies to be the cornerstone, then but their bottom line is about their bottom line and their board and their money, then the fact that we just tie health insurance, a basic right, to having a white collar job, most places, right, you have to have a white collar job to get health insurance. It's fucking bullshit. And I would say, I don't know how you guys grew up, but both my parents were teachers. I would say we were, I grew up in Rockford, Illinois. You can buy a house there for $130,000, right? So we're not talking, I would say
still.
we were, still. I would not say we were upper middle class. We were just regular people, I guess. I don't know. That even sounds privileged and fucked up. But I just want to put it in context. They were teachers. I don't think either of my parents ever made more than $70,000 a year ever, when they topped out. But they also paid into pensions, and they both retired when they were 55. They've been retired now, both of them, for almost 20 years. And, they're receiving their pensions, and that's great. But I thought they were you'll go to college and you'll get a white collar job that's better than being a teacher, and you're going to be making more money, and it's going to be even better. But the truth of the matter is that's not really the case. Yes, I have a white collar job, but I don't make that much more money than they ever made. And I'm divorced. I'm running a household on my own. And I'm paying into a 403B, which only has 150 grand in it. I've been paying for it since I was 22. I'm I'm never retiring. And I've been trying to follow the plan, right? This is the plan. You get a job and then you do the things and you keep moving up. And I'm actually, this plan is fucked. You know what I mean? For most people. Yeah. And this is why the Gen Zers are what the hell are you guys talking about? I have $100,000 in college debt, and these jobs aren't doing these things for me. I'm not going to be able to do the thing.
It's because companies have focused on padding their upper management's pockets instead of doing what we always did before, which is keep a reasonable distance between the job situation at the highest and the lowest. But now they've just padded their pockets and become the billionaire class that are, yes, they're doing some great science stuff, but they're just fucking everything up even more because they have such unrealistic ideas of how the world moves, and a distance between that working class, so much so that they can demonize us and make us pretend like we're chattel.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit too about to your point about health insurance, Adrian?
The movie?
Well, no. I want to just go back about this because I think this is important to probably again, it's very important to the queer community in general, but specifically for trans people, there's a challenge with health insurance, right? And Dina, in your community, what do you think you've seen in that world? I mean, I know it gets a little dark here, but I think it's important for people to hear. I think it's important for people to understand struggles. All of us are storytellers, and I think the power of telling stories is the fact that it helps other people see your perspective and hopefully be somewhat empathetic to it.
Yeah. Like I said, I've experienced poverty. Even the only way I got through this campaign was because people brought me food. People helped pay for bills. A church paid for a bill for me, so I understand because I've been a waiter and a comedian, and there's no 401k in comedy.
Right.
And so what is retirement? I'm a million years. I'm just short of your parents' age, when they retired, and I don't see retirement. And what was the question?
It was about health insurance.
It's about health insurance because
I'm sorry. Trans people. Like I've gotten a lot of my meds from illegally from China for years because that's the only way I could access it financially. There's luckily like Planned Parenthood and Chicago Women's Health Center and other smaller clinics not only provide abortion access and reproductive care, but most of them also provide trans care, making it a little more accessible. But when you don't know about these things, and here in Madison, like who's going to think Planned Parenthood has, estrogen or testosterone, whatever you're getting on, and so there's a lack of connection with the information, but also like a lot of us don't have resources for medical care. I haven't been to the doctor. The only reason I have antidepressants right now is because I told my doctor, I was like, look, I'm not going to have this job much longer, which means I'm not going to have insurance much longer. So can we help figure that out? And she was like, yeah, I'll double your pill, and double the quantity so that you can get through like a year after you have insurance. And I was like, amazing. But that's the reality of things. And if my osteoporosis kicks in and my arm breaks, like I'm just gonna be a broken arm bitch is what it comes down to,
Yeah.
So I mean, for trans community, the economic disparities that we face, especially trans people of color, especially trans women of color, the economic disparities, the job discrimination, the housing discrimination, it all impacts our community specifically harder than most.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, most of the things that I understand and read about is also about that. It's the fact that, like, a lot of people are thrown out of their families and a lot of people can't find jobs because people are like, oh, well, you look like a woman, even though you're a man. Like those kind of very horrible things that people say about people that are trans. And I think that's really frightening. I actually didn't have a lot of health insurance until I had my first kid, actually. And I never thought about it. I was just like, this is not something that I can spend any time thinking about. Because the fact is I'm not having it. Like, I'm not getting it. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. And I'm just going to have to live without having insurance. And once I was pregnant and I had a job that did give me insurance, ever since then, I'm like, I will do everything to claw my way onto an insurance program. Like, it's so hard to think that, like, you have to live a whole life without getting, gender affirming care or being able to deliver a baby without being into like horrible debt, a very natural thing to be able to do, or even get medicine for the people that, you care about and love. It's heartbreaking.
I don't know if you guys have seen, like, tell us these TikTok trends, like tell us about the time that you realized America really messed you up. And it's story, right? And it's story after story of Americans moving to Europe or other places where they're able to access healthcare at an affordable rate. Story after story of people saying, I was in an accident after I left the bar. They put me in an emergency vehicle and I was like, I can't afford this. And they're like, shut up, we're taking you to the hospital. And then people are like, can I pay you? Can I pay you for this? And they're like, no, or yes, $5, like stuff like that over and over and over again. There's a problem. The rest of the world the rest of the developed world are able to access health care.
Right.
Healthcare, like things that we should all have access to. And Americans think we're such a great country, but most of us can't afford access to healthcare.
I went to see.
Most of us can't afford, and then the thought of children being in school and having to do active shooter drills or having guns be the reason that our children are dying more than car accidents. Like, it's just ludicrous. We have become a corporatocracy. And until the corporations that are ruling this country take responsibility for what they've done and invest in social systems and pay their fair share of taxes, then we're going to be a little fucked up. Like, that's just what it comes down to.
Yeah, you guys, I went to see Hannah Gadsby over the summer and her new show, and she does this whole thing about how Americans hate people with bad luck. And I was like, this is so real, because she talks about like how she broke her, I think it was her ankle, like on an island in like Iceland, and they like had to helicopter in to get her off this island where she had been hiking and like fly her away and, you know, and deal with her and like her medical care. And of course the bill was like $0 because they have like, you know, actual structures to help people. And I think that like if more people understood that every single person is like a second away from becoming disabled, then maybe more people would be more interested in like buying into social structures, creating social structures, because relying on these companies to do it. I'm a revolutionary these days. I'm like, it's bullshit. It's not working. It's like not happening. You know, like, why should I have better health insurance than somebody who works at Starbucks? It's fucking not cool.
I definitely, Dina, think that when you start working in your office, anytime you have a bad call, you can call me and I will commiserate. Because to your point, Adrienne, is I was walking down the street one day in my neighborhood and there was an old man and he was bleeding from his head and he was like, he'd been on the ground for a while. Like the sidewalk was soaked with blood. Oh. And, you know, me and my husband are like, sir, like, what can we do for help you? Like, can we get, and then I was like, Mike, don't pick this guy up because we don't know what's happening. And I got his phone and I called his family and I was like, hey, you guys need to come get your dad or your grandfather or whoever this man is. And they wouldn't answer at first. And I left a message. And then we had waited for so long. I was like, I got to call 911. And so the ambulance came at the same time that the family came, and the family yelled at me. Because they're like, you know how much an ambulance costs? And I was like, it's going to be that or your dad, a grandfather, is going to be dead. Right. It's like the fact that we live in a society that's like, this is okay. Right. You know, that we're like, everyone should have their children shot in school, but we're not going to cover them over health insurance. You know.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think the solutions are?
Solutions are, I mean, there's, who knows what the solutions are, but I mean, we really have to start thinking about people beyond money and gain. Yeah. Like, it comes down to, we are humans, and I said this in a panel discussion, my leftist leanings, you know, I was like, war is a tool of the ruling class to play with their little toys, and who loses? We do.
Yeah, of course.
Do we win in any of the situation ever? No. Yeah. So when our governmental structures start to have go back to being humans who are working in governmental structures, when we start having corporations not influence legislation, and when people influence legislation, we'll come up with different ideas. Like as somebody who is just getting into government, I realize that I'm a little more optimistic than a lot of people who've worked in the systems forever. But also, like, I came in and somebody was like, hey, you need to ask for the mayor's endorsement. And I was like, her opponent is a friend of mine. I respect them both. I have a relationship with them both. I'm not going to ask for either, endorsement. And I'm not going to give my endorsement because, like, that would be a rift between my friend and I if she loses, Right. And they were, like, shocked that I would do that. And I'm like, really? We have politicians and all we're doing is taking everything? Like, do we not have, guidelines for our personal, code of ethics? Yeah. And
I mean, I think we see that in politics today a lot. It's like kind of this like circle jerk of like, I'll take care of you if you take care of me. I think the hope is actually, I feel like we're having like, the whole Marie Antoinette, like, let them
rich.
Like let them eat cake moment.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening right now. And I think what matters, and I think, you guys can thank me and Adrienne later for running, for raising kids who are politically savvy and have like very impassioned, investments in their community and where they are. But I definitely think that that's what we're seeing. Like this whole thing, last week I talked about this, is I was super obsessed with the Tennessee thing. Watching the young kids grow up and have the support that Gen Xers definitely did not have, to say what they need to say, to be like, this is what my experience, and my experience is real. And so if you don't believe me and you're going to keep me down, watch me run for office. And that's where it all starts. So I cannot tell you the number of times where I have to turn to someone and go, I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't help you. The law says blah, blah, blah. And we can change the law because it's all fucking made up. It just makes me so fucking crazy. The whole
it's literally
system.
A construct.
Yes. And so I think that's where our answers are going to be. And I can't fucking wait. I cannot wait. I can't wait to be 80 years old and being like, I remember when they didn't like trans people going to the same bathroom as I did.
Let's hope. I mean, one thing I would think, or I do think is a solution, is I think that people with more privilege who can take risk need to take more risk.
Hell
you
yeah.
know, like I do feel I had a situation at my work, not to be like, I'm a hero. That's not what I'm saying at all. But
I've already called us heroes.
Well, there's that. But, you know, I definitely have stood up and said things that were put myself and my job at risk because I felt that the behaviors and things that were happening were not fair to a greater good. And I also felt that, like, I'm a single parent, which I think is like, you know, it's not great. You know, you don't have tons of security in that situation, but I still have a lot more security than some other people have, you know? And like people who are financially secure or who are living in communities with more access need to start taking like personal risk to help protect other people. Because the way I see all these things going on, like I tell Elizabeth this all the time, like AI is going to take away the middle class entirely. We're going to have fucking rich ass people and poor ass people because there's not going to be any jobs in the middle anymore. And like, so everybody who thinks they're middle class and doing great right now needs to realize that their kids are probably not going to be that great. Like unless you're fucking coming from lots of like generational wealth, there's going to be big problems. Like everyone needs to start to give a shit.
Yeah, Dina, we're going to have to start wrapping up soon.
No.
But on this conversation, I would like to know if you're looking at not just your constituency, but like these young children who are like coming up now. You know, these 20-year-olds, these 18-year-olds. What would you say to them? Like, what things would you give them as advice in living their regular life, and how important it is to get involved in their community?
Yeah.
I would just say talk to my 21-year-old colleague who just got elected to city council.
Hell yeah.
Talk to my 20, early 20s other colleague who's elected to city council. Like, the only way we can make a better world is when people are involved and they take interest. And we've been so in this place of don't think about it, it's too much, politics are hard, you know, there's not enough resource for everybody. And if we cared about this planet, if we cared about people on this planet, we would not be okay with one person having billions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
Let's be clear, there are resources for all of us, but some people are hoarding them and keeping them. We constantly say there's not enough money, there's not enough this. There is enough money if people would pay their share and equitably distribute the wealth instead of hoarding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
like,
that,
you know, all the vast majority of the problems of this planet would be solved if all of these billionaires would put their money towards making sure that there were no homelessness, that we were feeding everybody around the country or world, you know, like if they got involved and decided to make a change, they could make that change for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That has been my time.
Well, I also to Adrienne, when you're talking about generational wealth, I think that's also a really interesting thing, which I know we don't have time to talk about necessarily right now. But I feel like, can we hold that into your pocket? Like we can move it into another movie at some point.
Yeah.
Because I do think like one of the things that you and I talk about consistently, and I think, Dina, you probably know this, is that we've had to work really fucking hard. Even though, you know, I'm in a fairly good position in life at this point, and Adrian's okay somewhat, you know, compared to other people, and you're hopefully have a long future in politics. Having to fight for every single moment and every scrap is goddamn exhausting. Like I want to be a Gwyneth Paltrow and be able to be like, I lost half a day of skiing and feel good about it, you know? And I think generational wealth does like, that's where you think is your lowest day, you know?
Well, of course, and it changes literally everything, every access that you have, you know, like if you're at an Ivy League college, that changes the trajectory of your life. You know, if you have, you know, the people that your parents and your family are friends with are also people with generational wealth. Like it can skyrocket you in ways like, you're like, oh, I want to publish a book. Well, we already know like 5 people who work in this industry or who have this success or whatever. So it's like everybody else is just like constantly, you know, really struggling to like keep moving forward. And, you know, the one thing, well, I think we're going to have to watch Baby Boom next season because I really do want to talk about motherhood in careers, because I really feel that like I was told in the 80s, like, you can have it all. You can have a baby and you can have a job. You're definitely going to college. And like, really, the truth is you can have it all. You just have it all. Like nobody, there's no fucking breaks. There's no help. Like you can have the kid, but you're going to be the one that's also working on top of that while also changing its diapers and also doing all this other shit. And it's fucked up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For another day.
Even not being a parent and not having a partner is so hard.
Yeah.
To get everything together and get everything done and take care of your stuff.
Right.
So, But love that.
Oh my God. What a great episode.
Yeah.
Dina, I always love having you.
Always.
This was like, it got really super deep. I think it just had touched both your all of our passion buttons.
Yes.
Like, because it's real stuff that I wish I had more like direct ways of fixing.
Yeah. And I don't know that like people in the middle class, at least, you know, white people, like, like when I think about like some of my, you know, white compatriots, I'm like, I'm not sure these are the issues that they are, you know, wrestling with, because it's like the system's working well enough for them, you know? And that's where I think we really need to like do more work. Like
for now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think it's going to work forever.
Yeah. Do you have advice for white women?
As a white woman, we really need to calm down and support those around us who are struggling.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, I need to say this. I need to comment to Ebert's, or whoever was the one that was commenting. Dolly's performance was okay.
I almost forgot we watched a movie.
Wait,
it was okay.
You're coming with the hot take
charm,
that she's just an okay
her charm
actress.
Is what made her part. Like her charm was so, like you feel that charm, but like I was like, wow, okay, Dolly, that's how you decided to deliver that line.
What was your favorite part about the movie?
My favorite part was watching Dabney Coleman run back and forth with the trash bin over his head.
Oh, right, when she's trying to shoot him, like one of those duck games.
Yeah, when Violet I was like, ha.
I had a little trouble with the whole, you know, school shooter, office shooter situation. And I was like, wow, the 80s, you know, when we didn't necessarily, anyone could have an AR-17 or whatever the fuck it is. And so it was a simpler time where
it was.
Office shootings could still be humorous.
Right. Office shootings were super fun. Dina, do you have any movies that you would recommend? Like if someone watched this movie and was like, I love 9 to 5, what would you tell them to watch aside from that?
Jennifer's Body. A very simpatico movie. Obviously. It was very femme focused. It was really great.
Yes. Well, you guys, I just watched Air.
Yeah.
which was about, Michael Jordan's shoe deal.
Oh, yeah.
It's again about zillions of dollars, but Viola Davis definitely makes the point that, their family had been living in North Carolina since they had gotten, since the Civil War. Fuck yeah, Michael Jordan, get this money. But then you're also kind of like, I don't know, how much money does one fucking person need?
Right.
But it's a great movie. I recommend it. Right. It also takes place in an office.
I don't think that I have one to recommend, but I do remember, and we can put this on another season, but I remember being a kid and really loving The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yes.
Did you see it? I'm pretty sure Adrienne hasn't seen it.
I have seen it. It's a different kind of office.
It is definitely a different kind of office.
Still a place of business.
I couldn't watch it when it came out because my mom was like, "No, we're not going to watch that whorehouse stuff. That's against Jesus."
Isn't Tom Selleck in it?
Sorry, I think it's Burt Reynolds.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, they're the same person.
Yeah, and I think is Dagny in there too?
With that rug of a chest.
Yes. Yes.
I loved him. All right. So thanks for listening to Don't Ruin This For Me. Special thanks to the Lincoln Lodge, our producer, Christine Ferreira, and our graphic designer, Jessica Savage.
Ooh. And hey, I know everyone is looking for even more Adrienne and Elizabeth. And you can find us on our Substack newsletters. Mine's called Where the Fuck's My Happy Ending? And Elizabeth is called Mixed Race Tape. And you can follow the pod on Instagram at Don't Ruin This Pod. And Dina, where can everybody find you? Dina's frozen.
You can find
She's
me
back
on all the social media at Dina Nina XO.
Ooh,
yes,
I love it.
And at your future office in Madison.
Yes.
You're going to love me for promoting
Please
that.
Just drop by, say hi.
Because that's what all politicians love, is a visit from their constituents. Woo! All right, come back next week to talk about the horrors of art school as we talk about fame. I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly. Hey!
Well, I think we should end there, but I will do our plug for supporting middle-aged voices by rating and reviewing Don't Ruin This For Me on your favorite podcast app. And yeah, we love you. We'll see you guys next week.